Erased Destiny 2, The Knower. Chapter 7, One Too Many. Marigold and Uzumaat had already packed their things and were waiting for him at the courthouse. The girl seemed to be as determined as she was scared. When Uzumaat saw the other team members, he couldn't contain his joy. A young apprentice, an old merchant, an unemployed hunter. Even for the extravagant lady of the Crystal Palace, this was quite a group. After completing the team in Wolf's Roam, everyone set off for Tyrdam, although no one knew what the task was. Hidden in the shadows, Etien, riding her Pegasus, looked amusedly at the people riding in front of her, discussing the expedition ahead of them. Poorly disguised, poorly equipped, uneducated. The associations with Igni, her husband, and the Eight Lord were obvious. Uzumaat, riding on Etienne's magical steed, tried not to show anxiety. He felt someone's gaze on him, but he couldn't see anyone among the leaves. It seemed unlikely to him that someone from the palace was following them, but he couldn't rule it out. He stayed close to Etien to protect her if necessary.
Are we going to sleep in the forest?
Yes, in the forest, near a watering hole.
Cyril turned to ask Uzumaat's opinion and stopped the horse. The vampire and Marigold were nowhere to be seen.
You should do something about yourselves. Are you going to ride into Tyrdam in broad daylight too? I hope at least some of you know how to camouflage themselves, right?
And her horse were the first to disappear. Then Topes turned into a moving pile of sticks and leaves. Only Cyril remained in sight, as magical and talented as most of the warriors that accompanied Etien from time to time.
Not bad, but you have to keep your hands together longer. Before you do eights. Take care of Cyril if you could.
It's too difficult. 4 spells at once.
2, silly one. We're riding horses. Just widen the field, that's all.
The summer heat was getting to everyone, least of all the undead Uzumaat, who, as long as no one told him to run in the full sun through a shadowless wasteland, didn't care about the weather. Etien had woven an umbrella out of poison ivy. Ume occasionally poured magic water on her head, and the men had unbuttoned their shirts. Etienne's thoughts revolved around Tyrdam, the few visits she had made to the city, most of which had been blurred by the passage of time. The tasks that Zuzu had assigned to her were complicated and time-consuming, and they were basically all the responsibility of seekers. Yet Etienne's team consisted of a warrior, a hunter, 2 mages, and a guide. The longing for Fidelis and Nathan once again gnawed at Etien. For anyone who could find the murdered mayor of Tyrdam. They set up camp at the place Cyril had indicated. Topes hunted for dinner and walked back and forth to stretch her sore muscles, and Etien drew on the ground with a stick. She drew a river, a wide strip dividing the city into 2 completely different parts. On one side lived the traders and craftsmen who were subordinate to the Crystal Palace, at least in theory. The other part of the city was occupied by desert dwellers who specialized in animal husbandry and training. High walls, that's what Etien remembered, and a castle located in the part closer to the Crystal Palace, far from the river. Towers, but on this side or that side? Cyril took the stick from Marigold.
Not here. The castle is closer to the north gate. There are 2 towers here, 2 more here, and a platform has been built between these watchtowers. I would avoid this place like the plague. The river bends here. Barges docking at the banks use the wide bend. That bridge is no longer there. I guess you saw an old engraving.
That's why we took the trouble to invite you on this expedition. Because it's not for your fighting abilities.
Uzumaat snorted with laughter. He watched as Etien got up, untied her braided hair, and took off her boots. Under the influence of the illusion, Etienne's hair turned black, her skin became pale, her breasts grew larger, and her body became longer. The dark blue outfit changed into a silver robe with a cut so unique that it could not be mistaken for anything else. Anyone who had ever seen the Lord would immediately recognize Etien as one of them.
Tulpas, I once promised to tell you the secret of my abilities. My composure and somewhat warped perception of reality. Does anyone recognize me? Cyril, perhaps?
Not warped, scaled up to bigger problems. Allow me to introduce Etien, Mistress of Death, Mind, and Frostfire, the ninth lady of the Crystal Palace. The best so far.
Rather, the most tolerant. After my last death, which happened a little over 15 years ago, instead of finally resting on the other side, I am stuck in this not very magical body. And until I find a way to free myself, Marigold and I are doomed to each other. Needless to say, the penalty for revealing my secret is a meeting with the swords of Uzumaat.
Taking advantage of the general confusion, Etien placed barriers on the minds of all the participants of the expedition. Uzumaat watched her walking barefoot on the grass. That was exactly how he remembered her. Not fighting on the battlefield, although there were also images like that in his head.
The mission we have been given requires a great finesse. That is why the current sovereign has asked Etien for support. If you don't feel like accompanying us, you can go home.
Except for Cyril. He doesn't have the right to change his mind. And since he worked hard for the privilege of traveling with us, he certainly doesn't intend to give it up.
Her casual, malicious tone made Cyril's forearms bristle. Every word Etien addressed to him contained a veiled threat.
In the presence of the Mistress of Death, you can't just die, which of course doesn't excuse you from being careful. I've never been to Tyrdam. I flew over it 30 or 40 years ago, hence the inaccuracies in my drawing.
Who had been observing Uzumaat's behavior, realized that she had allowed herself to be too casual and familiar in the presence of the sovereign. Therefore, she immediately expressed her sincere apologies and begged for forgiveness for any violations of etiquette she may have committed, solemnly promising to improve. Her voice, shrill with anxiety, amused Uzumaat so much that the vampire stumbled over the stick on which Topes was roasting the dinner. In the commotion, the meat fell into the fire. Topes' horse got spooked, and Etien had to stop it with poison ivy, and an emotionally unstable trying to save the dinner, flooded the camp.
People, what's wrong with you? I haven't sentenced anyone yet for not following the rules of addressing. I am acting incognito, so it is not advisable for you to bow down to me. A little respect and following my orders is enough. Umi, you have never disrespected me, so stop shaking and dry our bedding without burning anything in the process.
Tien looked at Topes and Cyril. Both men seemed negatively surprised by the revealed identity of the girl accompanying them, although the hunter was more surprised and the merchant's face showed more disgust. Etien took a closer look at his physiognomy and decided that his expression reflected Cyril's state of mind. The man bowed low and decided to remain silent so as not to make matters worse. He was afraid that for him the expedition would end in a dungeon.
Please forgive my behavior and these grievances.
Your attempts to look after me were even charming. I enjoyed spending time in your company, at least until you accused me of thinking only about the money and disrespecting the dead. My dear hunter, let me tell you something. For more than 50 years, I have been the Mistress of Death, and I hope I managed to get some knowledge in the subject. I visited the Dead Realm hundreds of times, so if I say something regarding the matter, you may believe me. And the second thing, According to the decree on fighting organized criminal groups, we should always first get rid of the bandits, only after that take care of the victims. Attacking me, who is fighting the criminals, is equal to death sentence. Please bear this in mind, since we may encounter such organized groups of rebels in Tyrdam. And about the money. I assume I have more than all residents of Sintra together, so I really do not need to rob the innocent. Getting paid for the job done is another topic. I think everyone should get paid, if they work, so I don't see anything wrong in me taking the prize for wanted criminals. I hope you agree with me.
Tolpes hung his head, thinking of all the times he had seen fit to reprimand Marigold. First and foremost, the unfortunate attack on the human traffickers' camp, which had significantly worsened their relationship. He had granted himself the right to impose his own beliefs and value system on Marigold. He criticized her, even though he knew nothing about her. He did not ask why she had made that decision. He tried to force her to submit to him. Uzumaat knew that Zuzu had changed the decree, and now the priority was to save the victims, but he said nothing. While being with Etien, all of them had to follow Etienne's orders and her vision. Of course, Etienne's point of view appealed to Uzumaat much more than Zuzu's.
My dear Cyril, I hope you do not hold grudges. It is not a shame to lose to me.
No, of course not. In fact, I have prepared a small apology gift for you. I hope you accept it and we could forget about that misunderstanding.
He gave Marigold a small package containing a fine wine from Eternal City. Etien expressed her gratitude and opened the bottle right away. She created glasses from magical substance, as she had no access to ice spells at the moment. Uzumaat served her, and all other adults.
Thank you. This is a really nice wine indeed. You are always polite to me, so as long as there is no Joanna nearby, I am sure you won't accuse me of using forbidden magic again. Let us rest and enjoy the beautiful summer evening.
Tien returned to Marigold's appearance. Maintaining the sound and light illusion unnecessarily strained her strength. She laid her head on Uzumaat's thighs. She stared at the stars above the forest, bit into her sandwich, and occasionally said a few words that no one but the vampire understood.
They had a nice sky in the city of ghosts.
And tunnels too. But Fidelis looked even better when he was offended.
Indeed, I almost forgot. How red-haired monsters can complicate people's lives. I thought you had more affection for the arena there. How many clashes we won together. Although I would rather fight than wear these bizarre gloves, it had its charm. Especially the lack of a ban on killing the competition. Potatoes for everyone.
And bats.
The cheerful atmosphere of the picnic and late dinner in the open air was spoiled by Uzumaat, who was staring at the branches of a tree growing a little further away.
Get rid of the tail.
The vampire disappeared and was replaced by a rolled-up blanket. The girl did not detect anyone else's presence, nor did she notice anything out of the ordinary in the forest's nightlife. Although it was as if fewer birds were chirping overhead. Without the priestly incantations, she could only suspect that a fellow vampire had visited Uzumaat.
In History of Magic class, we learned about your discoveries. Did you really invent acid magic?
I restored the memory of these spells. And a few ancient songs. I won the first battle against the Empire with a song. A lullaby, no less. Oh well, so much happened during my reign that there was no point in teaching history. It became outdated too quickly.
Etienne's laughter echoed through the forest, while asked more and more questions about the life and activities of the Lady of the Crystal Palace. About the worlds she had visited, the monsters she had fought, the wars she had waged.
Shouldn't I help him?
Uzumaat, don't be ridiculous. Your job is to make sure those two don't hurt each other, while we're busy annihilating the enemy armies. An escort, as I told Lena. If we are discussing the topic, I shall tell you what I do expect from you. First, Cyril. You shall be our guide and quartermaster. You associations may be of use as well. Yume, you shall provide magical support. Your spells and power would be useful, as well as your personal charm. You would act as a decoy if needed. Topaz, you shall protect Ume and Cyril while I am not there. You would keep an eye on safety of our hideout. When we arrive to Tyrdam, I would tell you more about the plan. For now, try to get some sleep. I will wait for Uzumaat's return.